If you're a lawyer, you've heard this question many, many times. Would you be a lawyer, or what would you do if you could do something different? Or the variation is, if you went back and could choose before becoming an attorney, what else would you do? And it's a disconcerting question because it happens so often, and it's become well known where lawyers always say, don't go to law school with other people and stuff like that. And I've had a mixed bag myself. It's a little bit more nuanced in that I don't think I could be a lawyer doing anything else but immigration law. So if I had, going back into it, if I couldn't get to immigration law, yeah, I wouldn't be a lawyer. And at the same time, I let this audio visual system of sharing information knowledge so much, I may get into something like that if I was 16 or 17. Maybe not go to college or law school for sure at that point, because I want to get into more information sharing and self study. So that might be something I could do, but it really goes to the core of how unhappy attorneys are in general, the higher rates of depression, drug abuse, etc., that comes with the profession. It's a stressful profession. I guess all professions, things that are like careers like that, will have that because the repercussions of what we do are so severe that when it goes wrong, it can really, really hit hard. And so the question is this what you want to do? And I have programs where I train people who are becoming immigration attorneys and getting this field. I got to think about this. Am I teaching something where if my children came to me and said, "Would you want to do it?" I would say yes, do it or not. So to justify and make it appropriate for me to give access to other people to learn the skill to come here. Not that they can't necessarily learn on their own, but to be a conduit to really push it as well to get in this area. And my answer is yes, because I built a life for myself that makes me really happy with what I've created. And we'll talk about that. Um, and But it's a question I really want you to ask yourself if you're listening to this, because most of the people listening are immigration attorneys. But even if you're not, if you're in another field, associate with immigration law or the rest, you gotta always ask yourself, is this what I want to do? And when I had an idea of what my life is. And for me, the more I do this stuff, the more I realize at the core of what it is that I like to do. And it really just fits in within this category of immigration law practice, and secondarily in the toolbox in what I'm doing. But again, I want you to think about, is this what you want to do, as I'm going to think about it out loud. I didn't prepare as much as I wanted to for this talk because I've been thinking about the subject for 3 or 4 weeks. And just this morning, actually, I saw the question posted on one group again about people who are burned out and say, what else could we do instead of law? And people are giving different perspectives of other things they would do. But along with that, unfortunately, a colleague of ours, this is May 4th when I'm recording this, about a week ago, committed, suicide, and was a practitioner. And I don't know all the details, and it's just kind of things being said here and there about bar issues or something like that. But you never know why a person takes that step. It's such a personal step, and it's always find it appropriate to blame it on a certain thing, a certain person, a certain event. It's usually, we would never know what's going on in the mind of the person who doesn't act like that. But we pray for their family. But at the end of the day, the rate of that is higher in the lawyer community. And when they do, I remember I saw some statistical chart that maybe immigration lawyers were the happiest of the bunch, even though we make on average the lowest amount of money of the bunch. So there might be something going on there. But it is a difficult practice to have. The consequences of what we do are so severe. And I was not training, but I was studying to be a doctor. And when I was growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. I'm from a foreign family. I expected to be a doctor and all that kind of stuff. But as I got older, one of the reasons of several that I decided not to pursue it is because of the heavy responsibility that you have to bear when you're doing, a medical practice, and the consequences, which are life or death. I thought law was interesting. You get to argue stuff. You have to have the knowledge and sophistication and analytical skills. But you're not gonna have a patient that dies in your hands. But then when I got to immigration law, I'm like, oh, there's a practice area of law that's similar to medical practice, because if you fail, the consequences, your client is dead in the U.S. So essentially, they physically can't be in the United States, just like someone physically won't be allowed to be in this world once they go away from this world. And so the consequences came hard, especially as you all know, it's so easy to make mistakes in immigration law. You could, miss a deadline. You could put a typo somewhere, and all of a sudden a person's lost out. And so it just becomes a very stressful thing. And I'm just thinking about all the different stresses right now pop in my head. It has gotten easier over time in one sense because I make less mistakes because I just have more experience. I'm better at catching the issues. But in another sense, every year there's a mistake that happens once or twice a year. Every year, and I say that so people won't feel as bad about it. It is something that does pop up, and so I've learned to deal with it better. I remember feeling like I want to jump off a bridge, literally, or just want to throw up for a couple of days when I would make mistakes. Luckily, my mistakes never got to the place where there, bar issues with the person couldn't fix it up. I just got lucky though that didn't happen. And it's so easy for that to happen in immigration practice, and that's what makes it extremely stressful. And it's partially one of the reasons I don't handle every area. For example, when it comes to like immigration and stuff like that, it seems like every day there's a new law on that, and to keep up on top of it is so hard. I already have to study all the USCI stuff just to be on top of it, but to get into immigration, that seems like nonstop work. And then you go to court, and things are moving so fast. Every day, circuit courts are changing things. It seems so easy to miss a deadline and miss a thing here, miss it there. It was just kind of overwhelming to have to deal with all that. And so it's just one of the things that, with other things, I decided not to practice that specific area of immigration law and stick with the USCIS consular processing kind of matters. But even there could be problems. I just had a consultation with a new case I got where the person went to several lawyers and they didn't understand the concept of an after acquired spouse for a 245I, which permits them to adjust status. So this person was able to adjust status spouse, ended up thinking they can't, so they left the U.S. and they're doing an I-130, and they didn't. The lawyers that they consult with didn't tell them at the time you could have filed adjustment of status with the I-130, and so they filed I-130, waited, and once their existing status was expiring, they left. Now they're waiting outside. You have F2A retrogress, and now all of a sudden they have to be out for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And it really messed up their life because they're in a space where they can have a second child, but they're not going to anymore because the spouse is separated. One child has to come back and forth and live two countries with parents separated as if they're divorced, but they're not. Now the U.S. parents is going to have to probably move to be together. They're going to need to get a reentry permit. They're going to have the headache of coming back. Their citizenship. It's like cascading levels of effect. And obviously, no one died in this situation, but it did damage, and it set the life path of a family off so bad because of a couple of attorneys didn't understand 245I, and this might be controversial, they have the business method of having, intake specialists do a consultation and not knowing what to advise and not letting a lawyer talk to them or really analyze the case to start. So the intake people will just say, oh, it's an I-130, this or that. They don't really get into that, these kind of questions. And so the person doesn't get the information that they need. And so that's disheartening, that business model, which is successful. A lot of people do it. But when I see the consequences of it where they don't get that in-depth analysis of it, it becomes a problem, especially when, I know the firms that are doing it that messed up in this case and they weren't able to give the proper advice in this poor case. So they may not even be aware of it, and I can't say I haven't given bad advice before in the past. So I'm not, no one's immune from this kind of stuff. But, there's consequences what we do, and it creates a lot of pressure. And that pressure could be a boiling point. So from the perspective of, is this what you want to do? There's a level of pressure that comes with it. There's a level of constant self-study because the rules change every day, which might be different from other practice areas where it won't be as crazy, where literally every day, remember during Trump, something new would come up every day. And that was super stressful because, I have Iranian clients that are waiting for their family, for example, a travel ban comes. And they call and ask you, what do we do? And you have to say, I don't know. And usually as a professional, you don't want to be in the position where you say, I don't know. But, you got to say there's no rules here. I even eventually did a video. I said, you know what? There are no rules right now. They're making up everything as they go along. So we just have to wait and see. Because I was getting so many calls of people freaking out about a travel ban, justly. But it just becomes hard when you don't have the answers. And sometimes you feel bad because you're like, there's got to be an answer. Maybe I don't know what's going on. You search and search and search, but there's no answer. And so it's a peculiar practice area to be in because the process is like that. You might have a situation where there are no answers. But there's ways to get help by having friendships and relationships with people, and talking, and so be able to find the answers that exist. And my hope was this podcast from the very beginning. One of the main goals was to serve that role, so at least people have and someplace to go to hear the frustrations, the knowledge, sharing different tips I learn every week, both practice based and legal based, to be able to try to get better at the skills they're doing. And now we have conferences and magazines and private groups and all that kind of stuff. So it's been helpful. But the thing comes is is this what you want to do? I burned out of doing it pretty much during the end of Trump administration. That's one of the reasons why I created the Immigration Toolbox, to try to train other lawyers to do it, because I got tired of it. I was a full solo answering phones. I stopped doing that for 10 years, but printing everything and talking with clients and analyzing all this stuff all the while to keep it study, and it just was too much. Now, I created the toolbox and I hired my law firm, and I realized what a foolish thing that was to wait that long to hire. But that really eased up a lot of the pressure of being a one-man show or one-person show. And now really guide people who are starting their own firm. The solopreneur route is good for a couple of years, and you can save a lot of money in your pocket, but have that as an investment to be able to expand, because you're either growing or you're dying. There's no in-between plateauing in this world. So if this is what you want to do, you got to keep growing with it. So if you're within a firm, it just in general, first of all, as an immigration, I have to say, you got to be thirsty to learn more and to be a better advocate at every step. And if that thirst ends where you don't want to be a better advocate, this isn't something you should be doing, because you have to have that thirst to be able to not even be successful, just to maintain. Because these rules change so much, and every day, every field office is different, every port of entry is different, every consular processing post is different. The NBC acts one way one day, it acts another one day. Right now we have an issue where the online I-130 for a marriage case, we started doing online filings because they said they're going to change the filing fee where it's cheaper if you go online and do it. And I know clients are going to want to do it online. So I said, okay, we'll start learning it. And we're going online, and you can't finish the form. It was a glitch for a week that we couldn't submit it. So we finally submit it. Now the client can't access it. And it's how do you have answers for this? And at first I was like, am I incompetent? It's the second or third time doing I-130 online. And I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense, that. And then I saw other people were posting on a listserv that they're having the same issues. And I was like, well, this is why I don't trust the USIS online system. It's such a headache. Because now we did it online, and it's probably not going to work. So now you have to do everything by paper now. I just doubled the work on this case and delayed it another week or 10 days to try to organize that and send it out. Hopefully the client understands the mess that USIS online is. But you got to be familiar with this, or not be able to get the information fast and where to get it to fix up the situation, because I could have thought it was me and not had it down. So I keep trying to go back and repeat the hypothesis, not the hypothesis, the title of this show, to kind of really analyze in different angles. Is this what you want to do? And when you think about that, obviously, is this what you want to do, reference being an immigration attorney? There's the other side of the coin, that it's not only your professional life, but your personal life as well. How do they go together? I listened to a podcast called Founders Podcast by David Serda, and I'm obsessed with it. It's just friggin' wonderful. And he analyzes the biographies of top founders that shaped the world from history. And it's a fascinating thing, and I just, every chance I get, I try to listen to it because I learned so much from it, and I could analyze the things I'm doing against that. So it's an amazing thing to do. But you see some people, their work becomes their life. And, some people like it like that. When I was planning out my life in my 20s, I realized that although if I started as an immigration attorney in my solo practice sooner, I probably would have gone that route. By the time I got into it, I had grown out of that phase where I wanted to go work hardcore just on one thing. And I realized I wanted to have a family and have a personal life on the other side. So I had to design what I wanted to do with an open eye of well, this is it, and these are my boundaries, and this is what I also want to accomplish. So I talk about a lot, it's kind of personal life, but I want to have family, kids. I want to have a healthy lifestyle where I go out and vacation and exercise and have, all this kind of stuff. And it's been hard. My wife has really pushed me to get my personal trainer. I had to fight. And then when I got him, my boxing instructor, my personal trainer, tennis lessons, and my coach and all that kind of stuff. But once I did, I'm like, oh, we should do it more and stuff. And now I have a calendar where first of all, I say what my personal life to be like, and then I figure out how to fit the work inside of that. And so I've built this practice of what I want to do and handpicking case types and the cases I get, which has made a good lifestyle. The key to be able to pull that off is really just having good marketing. And the good marketing for me came with studying immigration law as much as possible, talking about it on video format, so people saw I was obsessed with being a great advocate and knowing the rules, and that just fed into itself and grew. So the spare time I did have was reading, which I like to do, and studying, which I was going to school my whole life and just a continuation of it, and then talking about it in public. And really, if there's a cheat or secret of my success, it's just that I'm giving it to you. Just study and talk about it. It's really that simple. And so I was able to really design it. And so when you say, when I ask, is this what I want to do? Yeah, it's exactly what I do. What I'm doing right now, sitting in a room and, sharing my thoughts to the public and having a group of people who are going to listen, and the thoughts will help them because it's, my tricks to my trade and it can make it successful. And at the same time, I was with my kids and I had a good meal and had a good vacation of the week, and I have a beautiful wife, and, it's good, You always want more money. At this point, I've accomplished my goals were. And then I always have to be afraid of plateauing, which happens every once in a while when I reach goals. But now, to be honest, I like to have a private jet to fly around with and not travel economy when I have 3 small kids. So that'd be great. But we got to work some more to make the money for that. But again, is this what you want? So many lawyers I see post how frustrated they are, how burned out they are. Did they design a practice the way they want to do it, or did they just do something because they're told you should be a lawyer? They felt bad what's going on in society. They wanted to give, sacrifice themselves for the greater good, quote unquote good. Did they not know how to practice because they just thought they just have to say yes to everything that comes in the door, or they work for somebody who abuses them essentially and gives them 10 times worth they can handle, horrible cases that won't go anywhere, and given not good pay and yell at them, and they're too afraid to leave that situation to start their own thing because they're afraid they wouldn't be able to do it or not know how to do it. You got to decide, because at the end of the day, if you're a lawyer, you're a very powerful person. You have enough power in your education and your stand in society with a bar license that you should be able to demand and choose what you want to do in life and not be caught up in what other people tell you to do. And for me, anyone that works for me, it's open-ended. It's all voluntary. So you want to work with me, or if you don't, you don't. But I don't want everyone to feel like they don't have another shot. And so with my associate, for example, I put them on videos. I train them how to do marketing. And so it's really easy for them to leave me and be successful. Everyone who even the marketing team and stuff, they learn all the tricks of the trade I teach them. They could all leave if they want to. I don't want them to, obviously. I spend a lot of time training them and I like them, so I don't want anyone to leave. But what's great about that situation is they still don't leave, is because they're having a good time and they're tuned into the vision I have. And the vision is I want them to live the life I have as well, and to share that and grow that along with the people listening to this, people working with me, all that kind of stuff. So I really want you to ask that question: is this what you want to do? Is this who you want to be? Because there's an identity component to being an immigration lawyer. It really is like you're these knights that fight. But look at what you're doing. Is the practice that you have what you always thought it would be, or is it one that lets you sleep well at night? Is it something where if someone asks you, should I be a lawyer, you would say yes or no to? I would tell anybody, anyone in the world, if they want to be a lawyer like the way I practice law, 100% do it. And not everyone wants to live the way I live. Maybe someone like that with the work ethic I have, all that kind of stuff. But honestly, I don't imagine it works well as long as you just do your job and stuff. It should be there. But I guess a bigger thing would be, if you have children, would you want your children following your footsteps to do what you're doing? And for me, the answer is yes. However, I could add the asterisk. I love the components of what I do. The topic could be somewhat interchangeable into what their passion is. For me, the movement of people is a core philosophical issue that I enjoy. Thinking about a lot of the free movement of people and the evolution of people through movement, which is immigration or migration. But having another episode now where I'm kind of jumping all over the place, I just really want you to ask that, because the answer is going to lead to your happiness or your suffering. And the answer to that is going to lead you to the path where you need to go to. If you're happy and you're doing what you want to do and everything, that's fine. But if you're not and it's bothering you, you have to decide right now to change that. Because every second goes by, it's one more second closer to when you're not being here, and one more second of life and existence where you're not doing what you want to do to be happy and to really, power up and have momentum to achieving like a goal and lifestyle and achievement level that you maybe sought for when you're a kid thinking about how life's going to be. So, you got to think about it. Is this what you want to do? And if it's not, you got to change it and figure out how to do it. And one of the best ways is to visualize it, find those who are doing what you want to do or aspects of what you want to do and connect with them. Think about it in visualization. One of the major secrets, I guess, of how I was able to achieve the things that I want is I keep reading, greats that would say they visualize what they wanted to do. And so I really thought, and it's really hard because I try to visualize constantly what I want to do, and I put it off because it's just so hard to do it. And when I do it, I don't go deep enough, and it's almost a fear as to do it. I think partially it's a fear that if I think about it, dream about it, want it, and I don't get it, it's a failure. So by not thinking about it, I'm preventing failure from happening. But that's failure in itself right there. But what I've seen is every time I visualize it and like with detail, if I want this kind of house, if I want this kind of family, if I want this kind of success, if I want this kind of peace in mind, and I visualize what that looks like, and I have an image that's very specific that I could write down a paragraph and describe, I get it. And even telling you it's a truth that happens every time since I was a kid, it's still hard for me to do it for various reasons. And I'm sure if you start doing it yourselves or think about it, you'll feel it too, what the difficulty of that is. But it works. So is this what you want to do? If not, visualize what it is. Think about it very clearly. Pray on it, meditate on it, think about it constantly, have pictures of it, have writings of it, talk about it, bring it up to as much as possible, make it into existence. And what you'll find is that the pieces will come together and they'll find its way to come together for you. It's this metaphysical woo-woo kind of stuff, but hey, I'm a living example of it working. So I really, it's funny, I didn't start this podcast with the intent to go in this direction and talking about this, but when I keep asking myself, is this what you want to do? Is this where you want to be? This is exactly what I wanted to do, to be here in your ears right now, talking about this and sharing my joy with the hope that you'll be able to have that joy as well to get you where you need to go. And that's what's going to make the world a better place, by like sharing this and bringing everyone up with you, and asking when you're up, bring other people up with you. And that's it, really. That's the point of the toolbox. That's the point of everything I do, and it's the point of everything you do. If you're living a fulfilled life and happy life, that's the end game that's there. So always think about it in those terms, really visualize it. And if you want, it helps you, email me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Let me know what your visualization is. Because one thing I've seen is sometimes it's hard to think about what we want because we don't even know what we want. That's another hard part. But when you, for example, read other people, what they're thinking about, when you see it in something, when you see a video, when you hear someone talking about it, like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. That would be a great idea if you could do that. And it cheers you up. And you're like, okay, that's what I want to get. So share with me. It's private. It's an email. I'm not going to read it in public. And it'll give me ideas on the last hand, but I'll respond and say my perspectives and what my direction that was. But I like to see your visions, and we put these visions together to make a greater vision. I want to talk about this more in the future. This is kind of stuff I want to talk about because I think it does the most help. Obviously, talking about the law stuff is really helpful on a practical level, but on an even more practical level, this is the most important stuff to take in life in the next level. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thanks so much for watching again. God bless and be safe.